Alrighty then. When I was growing up, I grew up listening to sirens, hiding under my bed, hiding in the doorways, running to bomb shelters, going through forced blackouts, all because the Russians were going to bomb us at any minute, any second, and we'd hear Russian bombers coming over to kill everybody. Then one day in the early 80s, I was sent to meet a man. And it was like a day's drive, because the guy was way up in the mountains. And it was like, I don't want to do that. Hey, he's got 2 helicopters. All right, which car do I use? I drove for I don't know how long. He was way up in the mountains. He was a farmer. He had a Christmas tree farm. And I got up there, and as soon as I saw the guy, I knew he's a Russian. Like, if somebody pays me, I will kill this guy. If you're running for office, the only thing I want to hear from you is that if the Russians cross this line right here, we're going to start bombing them. That's the only thing I want to hear. So I got my helicopter ride. He had 2 helicopters. 2 Bell 212 Jet Rangers. One for his farm to take the workers out into the field, and one for, and to bring the Christmas trees from the farm out to his warehouses and stuff. And then he had another helicopter for him and executives and whatever he does, survey the property or whatever. But I could tell instantly this guy was a Russian. He had a black and silver beard down to his belt. He was wearing a Russian greatcoat. It was in the mountains. There was snow everywhere. Plus, he was a racist. He only hired Russians. He spoke good English, though. And this guy could tell how I felt about Russians, because I guess he run into this all the time. And I guess he decided he was going to teach me something. And he showed me some pictures and showed me some identification and that kind of stuff. He was a Romanov. He was directly related to the Tsars of Russia. He's the one that told me about the Rothschilds. And he told me about the people behind the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are the front men. There's a lot of families behind them. But he was mainly going to focus on Tsar Nicholas. And anybody that wants to do any research can find out about this guy. He's in the Northwest. He had a farm. I don't know how many acres. Christmas tree farm up in the Pacific Northwest. And I think he was given money and his freedom and stuff as long as he kept his mouth shut. Back in the 1800s, after the Napoleonic Wars, and this, everything he told me I was able to verify since the internet. But he said that what happened was Rothschild called a Congress of all the leaders of the nations and that kind of stuff. During the Napoleonic Wars, one of the main things that came out of that was that they learned Russia has a military you don't want to fuck with. He called a Congress called the Haitian Congress or something. I don't know how to pronounce it. I just read it. But, and this isn't how I was told. This is the kind of stuff I was able to verify later. That during this Congress, Rothschild told everybody, look what I can do. Because Napoleon was his little bitch doing what he was told. He showed, I can throw all of Europe into disarray. I can take leaders out. I can do anything I want to. Now remember, this is not too far after the Rothschilds came into being. And many people say, this is an entirely different video, but many people say that, you know, the Napoleonic Wars is where Rothschilds made all their money at. This is absolutely not true. His seed money come from those families that were behind him. Anyway, after the Napoleonic Wars, he called the Congress of all the leaders of those nations over there, and he pretty much said, you know, look what I can do. I have the muscle. I can throw all of Europe into turmoil. I can take leaders out. I can do anything I want to. And what he did was he proposed his one world government back then. Everybody pretty much bowed down. And he said, for this one world government, I need a central bank in each of your countries. Everybody bowed down to Rothschild, except Tsar Alexander of Russia. He said, you ain't putting no central bank, and we ain't joining your new world order, your one world order. Or your one world government. That's what it was called back then. I think Hitler was the first one to use the term new world order. Anyway, also at this time, so Tsar Alexander refused the central bank, and he refused this one world government thing. At the same time, just about, Lincoln was going through the same thing. He wouldn't have a central bank in the United States either. He began printing up those great big brown notes that you see, the Civil War notes or whatever it was like that. Rothschild decided he had to take Lincoln out. That's when the war started between the North and the South. You're told different, but this is the truth. They wanted that central bank in the United States. The South was being led by General Albert Pike, 33rd degree Mason. They're going to get that central bank. General Pike was losing his ass. So England was talking about coming over to help him. All these other countries that bowed down to Rothschild said they were going to come over here and help General Pike. A lot of you people don't know this. Tsar Alexander said, anybody else think you're getting in that fight over there, you're going through me. Tsar Alexander put half of his navy in San Francisco, put half of his navy in New York. Everybody knew they don't want to go up against Russia. General Albert Pike lost because he couldn't get that help. Rothschild knew they got to get Lincoln out of there somehow. This is when John Wilkes Booth come along. John Wilkes Booth was an actor. He was like Jay-Z back in them days. He was like Clint Eastwood. He was like Charlie Chaplin, whatever. He was making about $500,000 a year. He's engaged to a New York Democrat's daughter. He's set. This guy's good. Being the big name that he was, he could go anywhere. Back then they didn't have TV, they had, playhouses, like opera houses, that kind of stuff. And he was such a celebrity, he could get in, go anywhere. He had full run of anywhere he went to like that. That's how he got in to kill Lincoln. He said he did it for the South. He's married to a New York Democrat's daughter, and he did it for the South. Well, somehow John Wilkes Booth got his name on the 33rd degree Mason list. General Albert Pike was a 33rd degree Mason. After the war, General Pike was thrown in prison for treason. Later, Andrew Jackson came along and released him. All of a sudden, Andrew Jackson's a 33rd degree Mason. This is all common knowledge, except for the Russia defending the United States from the Rothschilds. But this is what sealed the fate for Russia. From that point on, Rothschild had to isolate Russia. No more alliances like that could be done. This is why, since then, all the democratic countries have been taught to hate Russia from birth. Hope that helps. Talk to you later. Bye.